Okay. Nistuan ko ka imanisin na pisaki. Nitong tu Piikani. Piikani ska ko. Apat sa Piikanaki. Nitapin ska sim Alene Bastien is my name, and I am from the Piikani nation, and I was born May 30th, 1943, which makes me 80 years old, and I am so proud to be Piikani, to be where I'm at, especially where I'm at today. Throughout my whole life, I had a happy childhood till I was about 8 years old. And after 8 years old, I was 7 years old when I went into residential school, and that's the Sacred Heart residential school on Piikani Reserve, and that was in 1950. I went into school, and we had no choice. Our parents had no choice. They had to let us go. They had to send us to school, and all the things that happened to us. That there was all a shock to us, a cultural shock to us, and everything, our language and our ways and everything. We had to just almost change overnight, from our culture and change into the Western world, or the white man's way of life, or the European way of life, without us knowing where we were being led to. We didn't know, because we were so young, and we were just little, so young, and our parents were warned too. They were threatened, not just warned, threatened. If you don't send your child to school, you go to jail. So our parents didn't have a choice. And anyways, so it all happened from my life changed from one day when they say there's a dentist coming. Everybody has to go see the dentist, and I was 8 years old then, and so going to the dentist and that, I'm not going to go in depth of sexual abuse, but apparently I was sexually abused during my visit with the dentist, and I don't know what time it was, but when I was done, it's just from all I could see was his back turning away from me, and he says to me, and what he didn't do was to put my chair up, and then so I was crawling out of this chair, and I was feeling pain, and that was knowing something terrible had happened to me, and I was just thinking, oh, maybe this is how you feel when you go see a dentist, maybe this is how it is. So confused. That was the beginning of my sexual abuse when I was 8 years old. Then after that, it started off with the priest, and the one priest anyway. So it just continued until I left the school. When I was about 13 years old, I left the school. My parents finally took me, and they sent me to a convent, and so confused with my life then, being in residential school, all those years of from 8 years old to 13, I was just like a runaway from school, and then I. They'd have the police after me. They'd send me back to school, bring me back to school. Then I'd get the strap. And and I just swallowed all the pain. I couldn't cry. I swallowed all the pain because I was afraid to cry. I was afraid to scream or yell or anything. I just kept everything to myself while I was getting beaten up. And so many times that happened. But I guess, that's just the the part of when I talk about residential school, about the sexual abuse, and then running away from school, and even myself fighting with this demon in here, which what I felt was like a demon inside me that I wanted to get rid of, and I wanted to, if I could just, somebody could just take it and just pull it out, and throw it away, whatever it was. I just wasn't understanding me, understanding what was happening to me, my behaviors. I was, I had behavioral problems. And then too, mentally I got affected. I couldn't learn, I couldn't comprehend. I couldn't learn to read, I couldn't learn anything. I got to be a slow reader, a slow learner rather. But that was just that part of my being sexually abused and leaving school. And then when I did go to a convent, then it was in a white school. I left the reserve here with with all the children of co-students of Piikani. Then I'll go into a convent where they were all whites. I remember walking from the convent to the school I was going to, and as I was walking, it was kind of uphill, and I could hear these kids talking and saying, "Oh, she's just a squaw. She's just a squaw, and go back to your own reserve. You're just a wild Indian. You're not welcome here," or something in that nature. And then I looked around and I thought, who are they talking to? So, but I just kept walking until we got to the front door and we were going in, and the one girl says to me, "So what brings you here? Who sent you here? You're not welcome here." And in me, I just all of a sudden I was able to retaliate, to say something back to them, and the first words that came out from my mouth at the time, which I probably heard from somewhere, somehow, was, "Oh, just leave me alone. You're nothing but white trash." And I didn't even know what that meant myself when I said it. That was the first time I felt discrimination, like it was just a war at me, and I was trying to fight back, and I didn't know how to fight back. And about that time when I said, "Oh, you're nothing but white trash," and they were saying, "Oh, you're just a squaw," and then pretty soon there was just a bunch of them all saying, "I'm just a squaw." Just then, and I walked away. I walked back, and I thought, I can't go to school here. I walked back, and I started walking back, and it was like a slope down a walk. So I got to the top, and then I turned around and I just told them, "Okay, I'm going back. I'm going back home." "Good riddance," as they were all saying. And the principal comes out, and they said, "She's calling us white trash. She's calling us white trash." And the principal comes to me and he grabs me by my shoulder and practically dragging me back into the school. Then he brings me into his office and he tells me, "So what are you calling them white trash? Why are you calling them white trash?" Oh, I can't remember exact words, but something to that nature. And I says, "Well, they were calling me names. They were calling me I'm a squaw, and they're telling me just." So I turned around and I was going back. I didn't feel this is where I should be. I need to go back home, go back to my reserve. And he says, "Oh, no problem with that. You're expelled." And I remember that word saying "you're expelled," and I didn't even know what that meant. And so I just got. Oh, he walked out, and as he walked out, I walked out, and I just ran for dear old life. I ran to the convent, and whatever made me to grab my stuff, all the things I had, I took them all, and I put them in a bag. And there was a window from my room, from the dorm I was in. I threw them out the window. Then I went downstairs, and the sister that was cooking, she says to me, "Oh, Alene, what you doing here?" And I just says, "Oh, I just dropped something out from my room. I'm just going to go outside and get it." And she says, "Oh, okay. Then maybe you can come back and help me." And yeah, I can, you know. And so I grabbed my bag and away I went down. I remember down the, it must have been by the canyon school around there. And from there on, I just remember walking and walking alongside Gano. I got by the river, the Old Man River. I knew that trail. And that was the beginning of me being homeless without knowing what homeless was. But I was living it, and I went, but nobody came to come after me. You know, no one came to try to find me. I was just a bad influence to everybody, to all the parents. They didn't want me around their daughters. I was a bad influence to them. And so I guess those were the feelings and emotions and everything I had in me that I was trying to find out about myself. Why am I hating myself inside me? You know, why am I doing this, and why am I saying this? Why am I the way I am? How come, you know, nobody wants me, nobody likes me? And so they sent me away to a detention home. But to me at that time was the best thing that ever happened to me. The best thing that ever happened to me was being sent to a detention, because they took good care. It was a Catholic place. It was away in a big city, and the nuns there were mothers, and they took good care of me. And I was so, you know, and I stayed there for 2 years. But after that, you know, then you know, there was no ending to this, you know, trying to find answers to a lot of things. And why this way? Why me? Why all this? There was no ending to it. I got married, and the same thing happened. I was really abused in my marriage. But my blessings was my babies. You know, I had 6 babies, and those were my blessings. And to me, I didn't care about anything else as long as I had my babies with me. And I tried the best way I can as a mom at the time to take care of them. Then alcohol was introduced to us unreserved, and they allowed alcohol unreserved, and that all just ended. My motherhood, it just ended, and I went into alcohol. It took me years after I separated and divorced and went through my grieving part of my life. It took all those years. So I must have been about 50 years old. Finally, I was able to deal with all these why questions I was asking and wanting to find out why am I the way I am, and trying to get some answers. And this is when I started to take care of myself. Then I started to go see medicine men, medicine women to help me to go, and I went to ceremonies, and anywhere, I didn't care how far it was, I'd get myself there, and to help me. But it took years, all that. Then I got my education. I started getting my education, and then I took courses, you know, Native American Studies courses with women, and for women, and all for me, so to help me. And my last reward for me was taking a life skills coaching. I took a life skills coach, and I got my diploma in life skills coach, and I started to work. And in that time too, I was dealing, and I started feeling good about myself, feeling better about myself, you know, just by building on my self-esteem with the education I was learning. And I went out, I was all over, and I got my education in the States, in the U.S., and learned a lot from the different people, all the different Native Americans. I went to their ceremonies, their their studies, to Native American studies that I took, and I learned so much from them too. I learned their language, their culture, their beliefs, their values, and use that to help me build on my self-esteem and to help me with my life to find my spirit, that lost spirit that I lost, that child that I left behind, is 8 years old. I left her behind and I just left. It took years for me to find her and to hold her by the hand and just tell her, that's okay. We're together now. Now we'll walk together. I found you. It's just like, I found you now. We found each other. Now we'll always be together. We'll heal together. We'll do things together. And we'll learn about ourselves and we'll help with our life experience. We'll work with people and we'll utilize our skills and education to help people around. Anyone, it doesn't matter who. Anybody asks for help, we'll help them. And that's what I did finally. And this is only about 10 years ago, I could say, where I felt good, where I found me and found my spirit. A couple of years ago when they were talking about those children, those graves, that unmarked graves and all that really affected. And that just brought me right down to where I really grieved and I just really felt it. And I just went right into grieving that I never grieved for before in as a childhood. The best thing is to find that spirit. That's your spirit that you've lost. Your identity you've lost. It's good when you find it and when you're gone, and then you can comprehend everything. And everything comes into you, and then you're just like my life now is the best of my whole life now. I have no anger. I have no any kind of negative emotions in me. I just look at everything in a neutral way. Yeah. A summary to my interview now, I just wish that all the young people can hear what I'm saying and that they can use that, my story now, they can use that to help themselves if they get there, if they get to that part of their lives. It's something. Just keep your hopes up and have faith in your own spirituality, what your beliefs are. Have faith in that. That's what will get you to where you want to go. The sky's your limit. Ken.